You are making the world a better place by listening to the Joy of Living podcast. This is your guide to achieving a more purposeful, powerful, and positive life. Join Barry Shore in unlocking the best version of you and becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. And now, here's your ambassador of joy, Barry Shore.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking, you're always looking for and finding the good. That's why you tuned into The Joy of Living with your humble host, Barry Shore, because you know in this show, we talk about the three fundamentals of life, which enable you to be happier, healthier, and wealthier. Who doesn't want that? So you tuned in for one reason and one reason only. It's a great reason, the best reason in the whole world, because you care the most in the entire world about you. Y-O-U, which is great, by the way, because when you're the best you make the world a better place. You build more bridges of harmony. You create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. And that's really what we need at this time in this very traumatized, fascinating, and difficult life environment. But you're going to be uplifted today by an amazing person. I just really love working with Neil Myers, and you'll hear him just a few minutes, and it's going to rock your world, because he's going to bring about more hope for you, which is really what life is all about. So the three fundamentals, as we discussed, are: number one, life has purpose. And when you lead a purpose-driven life, number two happens. Now, in this case, a good number two, you go MAD. Now, MAD is a wonderful acronym that stands for make a difference. You lead a purpose-driven life, you go MAD in the world, make a difference. And the third fundamental is to unlock the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. Simple example, this is a great one. SMILE. SMILE is a wonderful acronym that stands for seeing miracles in life every day. Every day, no matter the circumstances. Now, I'll tell you, recently I spoke to a large group, 1,176 people. And there are people in the audience invariably raise their hands and say, "Hey, Barry Shore, I've been up for hours, I haven't seen any miracles." And I asked them, "Are you here? Can you hear? Can you stand still? I can't do that. Can you walk? I can barely do that. You have water to drink, you have food to eat, you have a place to sleep, your family, your friends." Every single one of those is a miracle. And the simple proof of this is what? 1 million people didn't get out of bed this morning. You know why? They died. By definition, if you're watching or listening, you didn't. Therefore, you have an obligation to live life to the full. So let's look at an interesting story. It's my story. I think you'll find it of benefit. By the way, just for bookkeeping purposes, we have right now 345,822 people around the world that have tuned in to listen to The Joy of Living. And I truly appreciate it, because that's our base audience. And by the time we bring on Neil, we'll have over 360,000 people, because you're always urging your family and friends to listen to The Joy of Living, because you know that it benefits you. Enables you to be happier, healthier, and wealthier. So imagine the following, if you can: standing up in the morning, hale and hearty, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, and that evening being in the hospital totally, completely paralyzed. That's me. Not an automobile accident, not a spinal injury. It was a rare disease that took over my body and rendered me a quadriplegic. I never heard of this disease the day before. All I could do was blink my eyes to communicate, completely paralyzed from my neck down. I was 144 days in the hospital. I was 2 years in a hospital bed I couldn't turn over by myself, 4 years in a wheelchair. I had braces on both my legs, my hips, and my ankles. That was progress. Thank God today I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking wand. So I'm a triped, not a biped. I still can't walk up a stair by myself. I can't walk up a curb by myself. I'm helped 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you hear my voice. Positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, all because of one word. What's that word? Smile. Seeing miracles in life every day. The ability to do that really makes all the difference in your life. It's what's up here in your mind that comes out into your words and into your deeds. I got to tell you a quick story. My 8-year-old niece comes over to me a few weeks ago, and she says, Uncle Barry, can we spell smile? S-M-I-E-L. I thought about it. Smile, smile, sounds the same. Why not? Ask her, I'll come. She says, because then it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life out of the mouth of an 8-year-old. But what was she doing? She was creating the kind of world she wants to live in. Now, CREATE is a fabulous acronym that stands for causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. It's about how you think. So the 6 most important words you could ever internalize, utilize, and leverage in your life are choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. How you choose to respond in any given situation will really show what your real path is and the trajectory of that. Now, before we bring on Neil, I have to warn him and our new listeners that your humble host does use a lot of 4-letter words. Now, of course, the 4-letter words that we use, because we live in the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, 4-letter words that we use are love, life, hope, free, gift, ride, bike, swim, pray, play. And you'll know why those are important in just a moment. And the 4-letter, I even use the 4-letter FU word, and I do it because of the shock value and it's fun. And of course, the 4-letter FU word that we use is fun. F-U, capital N, capital N. Now, I know there's some people in the audience say, hey, Barry Shore, fun's only spelled with 3 letters. Not in our world. In our world, it's spelled F-U, capital N, capital N. So after the show, when you see your family and friends, you point your finger and say, F-U, everybody. Remember to add capital N, capital N. I said, where'd you get that? So I listened to Barry Shore, The Joy of Living. He wants to teach the world to F-U. So before we bring on amazing Neil, I just want to urge everybody to do the following. I want you to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day from now and the rest of your life. And these 2 words are thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. The Dalai Lama has been quoted as saying, I read in his writings, be kind whenever possible. He said, it's always possible. So imagine you go into your coffee shop, you order a fancy latte, you sit down, somebody brings it to you. You say thank you, of course. You go to the coffee shop, you order a fancy latte, a couple of minutes goes by, you go to the counter, they say, I'm sorry, you forgot, we're busy, we'll bring it to you, sit down. Another minute or 2, somebody brings it, you still say thank you. You're walking out of the coffee shop and it's raining out. And somebody holds the door open for you. You say, thank you. You're walking out of the coffee shop and it's raining and somebody slams the door on you. You say, thank you. You're in traffic. You're late for an appointment. Somebody cuts you off. You say, thank you. You get in the middle of the night and you stub your toe and it hurts. You say, thank you. To harmonize and nurture kindness. KIND is a wonderful acronym that stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. There's nobody that I can share with you that inspires noble deeds more than my friend Neil Myers. Wonderful. Please say hello to 362,819 people around the world.
Well, good morning, Barry, and good morning, viewers. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have Neil. He is somewhat low key, but that's because he's in the tech field. They're not known for being a Zoomer, but that's not the reason. He is a straight ahead, wonderful, amazing, uplifting fellow. And we're going to work with his story because aside from the fact he's a California guy and he's been riding his bicycle for decades and he's a good guy and he's a husband, he's just a good friend, he has something to share with us that is really powerful because it shows the essence of what it means to have life shift on you in a moment. It's the title of my new book, by the way. Oh, Shift. And we got to not, by the way, Neil, I've been working with people for 4 decades plus. 97.2% of them drop the F and shift, and the other stuff happens. So you got to be careful with your shifts. So let's just jump right in. And I'm asking you, what happened to you around the year, was it 2020? Was it 2020?
2018, actually.
2018. So let's go back. 2018, you're just riding along like you normally do because you're a wonderful cyclist. And oops.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I was listening to your story and it's got a similar element, which is you don't have in your day timer when something like this happens that the next year of your life is going to be entirely different. But this particular day, I'm a triathlete and I was training for a race here in Santa Barbara. We've got a really great climb here. It's called Gibraltar Road. It's definitely Tour de Classe, Tour de France class ride, and I was been working hard that afternoon. It was a Saturday. I was going to go out to dinner with my wife that evening, so I was on my way back. Had a good ride, and it's interesting because I'm a decent rider. I'm not absolutely fantastic, and going up hills is hard for me because I have to fight gravity. But coming down, gravity is my friend, and so I'm just ripping down this road. And I come around a blind turn, and there's a truck in my lane coming right back at me. Had absolutely no chance to react. Didn't even have a chance to really perceive it. Hit the truck head on, went all the way through the windshield, and ended up I broke my leg, 7 ribs in 16 places, bruised both lungs, bruised my heart. I broke my nose, broke both wrists, lost a ton of blood, and I was lucky actually because several things. I didn't go under the truck. I later learned if you go under, that's probably it. Didn't go over the truck. I've learned later that if you do that, you're probably going to be paralyzed in some way. Going through the glass is actually the kindest thing, the luckiest thing you can do, because you get 6 feet to slow down. I was also lucky there was a helicopter had just dropped off a patient at our local hospital. He heard the call and just sat down just in case I might need some help. First responders are there. I was at the hospital within 30 minutes. And I guess it was about 8 hours later, maybe 70 people had worked on me that night. And the doctor came by and said, "You're going to make it. And we'll talk about the rest in the morning." And that was just the beginning of my journey.
It's so powerful what you just gave out to people. Now, I just want to make sure that everybody understands, especially you, Neil. We have a worldwide audience. So most everybody in the world knows where California is. If you don't know where Santa Barbara is, please do a search, because it is one of the most beautiful places in the world, not just in California, in the world. And Neil is a fortunate fellow. But what he just told us almost defies understanding in terms of what other people call luck. Let's just leave it out there for the moment. By the way, everything you want to know about Neil, just go to my website, www.whatawonderfulworld.barryshore.com. barryshore.com. Just go to barryshore.com. You don't have to write anything down. Just lean in and listen. Let all this flow through you, around you, and uplift you, because it is so uplifting. And I just want to point out a couple of things that you said, because they are truly amazing when you do things in hindsight, right? So here you are coming down a mountainside at, I think it's probably fair to say, somewhere plus minus 60 miles an hour.
No, it's 35.
Okay, well, 35 miles an hour, but coming down the mountain, and a truck, I don't care if they're going 20, but they're probably also going 30. So this movable object hits an immovable object. And again, as you pointed out, I want to emphasize something here, that Neil is not being funny when he says how lucky he is, that he later learned to go under a truck. And I have a dear friend who experienced this. Yes, it means you're gone, most likely. To go over a truck means you're going to be at least paralyzed, maybe gone. So he got the best of all worlds, but he had no idea what it meant because he was so broken. And then, as you tell the story, to have a helicopter landing just minutes away and getting the call and coming, that is something that, again, the genius of the United States of America, and especially California, by the way, let's be blunt, is that we are a country that is far more organized, far more capable of helping people in need than almost any other country in the world. I think it's safe to say that. I've been around the world several times. I'm sure you've traveled also. And people who live around the world who are listening, whether they're in China and India, Pakistan, or anywhere in Europe, or even in Europe or in Africa, Latin America, this doesn't happen. So here we now rescue this being who is broken. But the doctors say to you, and you said 70 people worked on you. Hello. The doctors say to you, "You're alive. We'll talk about everything else in the morning." So now, hello, Neil, tell us about the morning after.
Well, that was when I first found out I'd broken any bones. I had been awake the entire time in the hospital, but when you have an accident like this, a traumatic accident, you get what's called epinephrine goes through your brain. That's basically adrenaline. And so what that does is it basically sets you up as a human for survival, and it stops everything that you don't need to do. So you don't need to digest food, for example. That just stops because it needs every ounce it can for you to survive. One of the things that shuts down is your cortex, and you can't think. And so we live in a world of 2 and 2 is 4. We all do. We see things, we put it together, we get what's happening. Not when you have this happening. You can't think, you can't put things together. So you observe actually better than you've ever observed. That's part of survival, but you don't know what that means. So when I was sitting there, I woke up on the pavement. I looked around, I recognized it vaguely. I didn't know who I was, and I noticed that. And I couldn't see my bike. It was behind me in 3 pieces. And the fact I had no idea where I was something I noticed, but didn't care because I couldn't put it together. The fact that suddenly the light went out and I couldn't see. And when I wiped, I realized it was blood. And I looked down, I saw more blood than I've ever seen in my life. Didn't put together that might mean something bad for me. It went on and on like that. And so the whole night, by the end of the night when I went to bed, doesn't matter how many times I'd been x-rayed and people talked to me. When I woke up in the morning and the doctor came by and started to explain to me what happened, it was the first time I realized I had actually injured myself. And really, I would say that it was probably better part of a week before I understood really how bad it had been. That evening, I remember seeing my oldest son standing in the ICU just crying, just uncontrollably. And I noticed it, but had no idea why. And didn't wonder why. It was just not part of my consciousness. A week later, I can remember thinking, oh, now I get it. So it was kind of like that. And in a way, to be honest, as bad as this sounds, it's not as bad as you think for the person that's injured, because of everything that happens to you. You don't feel the pain. I can remember being in the hospital, hearing myself scream, but I couldn't feel the pain. And you don't realize what's happening. So it's actually, believe it or not, pretty easy going at first.
For the first week, let's unpack some of what you just said, because it is truly wonder-filled in what you've just given to us in terms of the human condition. I am a student of the brain and the different functions. Again, part of it because of my situation. And I'm truly in awe of how you described it so beautifully, that we can at one and the same time be the observer, and as you said, more observant than any other time in your life.
Yeah.
There was nothing else competing. The only thing that the mind was doing was just making sure that there was a body that was still attached.
Yeah.
And it was just observing. There is no pain. There is no misery per se. There was no happiness, but it was just observing. And that is truly powerful. So when you observed your son crying, you could see it, but it I won't say it didn't matter, but it didn't register. It was just beside, there was another data point. Now, as time goes by and now the consciousness comes back into this now shattered being, and you start to be able to process, okay, then all floods of emotions of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Who am I, et cetera. Okay. But at that time, you were in, and I'll use the term, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you were in a state of bliss because it was the mind that was observing. I love what you said, by the way. You don't have to worry about digesting, so we'll just take that off the table. That's very big, Neil. That's a major thing. Saying, well, gee, I think I need a hamburger. No, it doesn't have anything to do with your being. The mind was observing you. And I think I'm going to posit this. I'd like you to chime in on it. This is the kind of state of consciousness that people who practice high meditation sometimes achieve. Is that true?
I can see that. I've never achieved it other than this accent, but I will tell you this. There's another thing it's a lot like. If you've ever heard of people describing crossing over, near-death experience, I'm not going to argue with them about what they felt, but I'll tell you what they're describing is exactly what I felt, because, and it wasn't a near-death experience. It's just, we don't ever live in that state. We're never in a place where we can't think. And if you can't think, if you're just not thinking, guess what? Time slows way down because nothing's going on up there. You're just observing. So that's the first thing is time slows way down. Second thing is you're incredibly observant. That's part of what the adrenaline does for you. And so you just start seeing things you've never seen. And you start going through all the things they describe. It could be that what they're describing is that state that you were just talking about.
I am truly interested for several reasons. Number one, on a very personal level. And number two, as I said, I'm a student of the brain and the mind. And I can share with you, I've never shared this with the audience before. They know about my paralysis situation. I've had two near-death experiences. One was an automobile accident, which I won't go into. It's not necessary at the moment. And the second was the paralysis, the immediate shutting down and the shock of that in a matter of moments, completely paralyzed, standing up and now paralyzed. And I have deemed them near life experiences because it's the greatest clarity I ever had, even though it was short lived. But and like I think you're describing that, it's something that is truly the ability for the being, the mind, to see things that you could never see before. And that the process, let's call it a crossing over, is not frightening. I mean, I'm saying this now because this is really, I think, of great interest to everybody around the world. People, I've said this a number of times in webinars and seminars, death is the most hated word in the English language. And one of the reasons is because people hear death and they get frightened. But the other thing is, Neil, you like this, you take those same letters of DEATH and they spell the word hated. Huh. So death is the most hated word in the English language. But what you're describing was not that. What you were describing was a process whereby your consciousness was literally just doing whatever it needs to do to maintain your actual physical being. And that's truly wonderful. Whether you believe in God or not, that it does happen. That everything is built in such a way that you now can maintain through adrenaline and through all the processes that need to be. So again, let's talk about the next day. And when the doctor said to you, "Hi, Neil," here, and you're all, and they start listing down all the stuff. Maybe they didn't do it like that. I don't mean to be flippant in any way, but when did consciousness come back into your body so that you began to realize that you had multiple injuries, which were going to take time to heal, if at all, by the way? And I really want to emphasize this, if at all.
So I would say the next morning I was in a state where I could start to hear them. And so I certainly knew as they came through, and there were a lot of them that came through one by one. Okay, I've broken my leg. Okay, I've broken ribs, etc. And I know what those words mean. So intellectually, I could understand what they were saying. It still took a while to sink in what that actually meant to me. For example, this is probably one of two times through this entire journey that I actually got depressed. Was the first one was later that week because they needed to get an operation to fix my leg. And we were talking about luck earlier. The other thing that was really lucky, this was, it's the only level 1 trauma center between Los Angeles and San Jose. And it was minutes from where I was. And it had just been certified earlier that month. So it was, and that's a big deal. It means they have all the right equipment, all the right doctors, all the right procedures. I'll give you one example, not to go too far off, but I hit that truck at 4:59 in the afternoon, went through the doors at 5:30 at the ER. I later found out, and this will choke me up, it always does. Second they got the call, the head nurse called the entire next shift for the ER because they were going to be changing the shift at 6. And they said, "We've got a patient coming in. He's going to need everything we've got. Come in early." They were all literally waiting for me at the door.
I'm choking up hearing this.
This is probably the biggest lesson, and I'm going to get to the question you asked in a minute, but the biggest lesson I think of this entire 1 year journey is we live in a world where we're told every day how much we hate each other and we're at each other's throats and we're all contentious, and that's just BS. The reality is we're a community, and the community, I didn't ask anyone for help. I couldn't. I didn't know I needed help, and yet they were all there lined up waiting for me. That to me was probably the biggest thing. That your question was, when did I start to realize this? So here I am. I'm flat on my back. I can't really move. I'm not paralyzed, but with all those broken bones, it's hard to move at all. And they need to get my leg operation, but you know how it is when you prepare for operation, nothing, no water, no food after midnight. They rolled me down, and probably about 7 that evening, they said, it's been too busy. We couldn't get you in. It'll have to be tomorrow. Next day, same thing. I get down there, and about 6 in the evening, I'm laying there. There's another guy. He's in a wheelchair next to me, and my wife's there. He gets up and goes to the bathroom, and my wife looks over. She goes, Neil, you're crying. What's the matter? And I said, I'm a guy for whom movement is my temple. That's what I've been doing. I've been training for years. This is what I do. I can't even get up. And that guy who's also beat up, at least he can go to the bathroom. I can't even do that. And that was probably my lowest point. They didn't do the operation. The next morning, they wheeled me through, and it went fantastically well. And I really never looked back from that point. But that, to answer your question of that first week, that brought me to probably my lowest point. But to be fair, really one of only 2 times I ever felt low.
Very powerful what you just said. The acronym for joy, by the way, is Journey of You. That's what joy really is, the journey of you. You've been through the journey. So you're telling me that in the first 2 days after the accident, you were merely laying in bed, not operated on yet.
Right.
You were there as the mind observing. Is that correct?
Yeah. And the funny thing, people don't know what a hospital is about if you haven't been. Most people that have been to a hospital walk through the front door and they see something and you form opinions, but I didn't come through the front door. I came through the roof, and that's a very different way to come into a hospital. And what you learn very quickly, actually it was over my entire journey there, was first, you're just being passed from department to department. The first department is the ER and the ICU. And they have one job: make sure this guy doesn't die. That's it. They're not trying to heal you. Just make sure he doesn't die. They've got the best room in the hospital. It's like the penthouse suite. The ICU is massive, so they can get teams of people and lots of equipment. And it's just you, and your nurse is split between you and one other person. It's not going to get any better than that in terms of, it's like the Four Seasons. And then, but they don't care about anything except make sure you survive. I was a complete mess in terms of the blood and then all the grease from the bike and everything. Nobody cleaned any of that off. It's not their job. It's not important. I'm going to survive whether you do that or not. So they work on what they're supposed to. So then I get transferred down to the next level. Now it's no longer the penthouse suite. Now I'm in like a nice business suite, right? It's a nice room, and it's a new hospital, and still no one's cleaning me. And that's okay. This is not a complaint. It's just an observation of what their job is. Their job is to do what I would call acute healing. They got to get me to where I can be able to move around and ready to go home. And so they do their thing. And it was probably, I would think it was probably in the operating room, prep room, where they finally cleaned me up and got all the grease and everything off of me, because it's finally was important to them. And then what happened after about 2.5 weeks is they transferred me to a rehabilitation hospital. Again, we're just going kind of down the assembly line. And now I've had acute healing, but now they have to train me to be able to get around, get in and out of cars, to shower myself. How about this? I have a broken leg. I've got 7 broken ribs. Both wrists are broken. How do you put your socks on? Well, they taught me. They had a gal that would teach me that. One of the things about being in the hospital is you just have to lose all sense of privacy and that type of thing. So she would show up first thing and she'd go, how come you're not dressed? And excuse me, let me turn this on. she would teach me, take me in the shower, teach me everything. And so finally, after a month, they let you go. And you think, yay, I'm done. I've graduated.
Okay, on that amazing note, I mean, he had a note, we have a high note. We're going to introduce our sponsors who love us. Please patronize them. They're wonderful. And we'll be right back after this brief message because you're going to learn about fitness from the guy who was broken and about documentary filmmaking. It's absolutely astounding. We're right back after these brief messages. Don't go away. There's more Neil Meyer and Barry Shore after this brief message. Imagine the kind of place you would want to shop for your favorite fur baby pet. HonestPets.co. Well, you found it. HonestPets.co. Not .com, .co. This is your go-to spot for the best, the cleanest pet treats that exist anywhere on the planet. All of the brands go through a rigorous review to make sure they meet the high standards of cleanliness, health benefits, and naturalness. This site was started by a husband and wife team, and it's veteran-owned, and that care about pets, especially dogs and cats, and coming soon, bird treats. These are very nice young people who really care about making a difference because a portion of proceeds go to support veteran organizations with a focus on service dogs. This is the place where you want to go. You want to tell your friends this has the finest, yummiest, freshest, all-natural treats and stuff for your fur baby. So go there, honestpets.co. honestpets.co. Do it now. Opportunity. What an opportunity. I'm going to use 2 4-letter words right now. Free gift. Free gift. Yes, you can have a copy of my best-selling book, The Joy of Living, How to Slay Stress and Be Happy, the ebook version for absolutely free. All you have to do is send an email to me, Barry, Barry, at barryshore.com. And in the heading, the subject line, just write free gift. It's as easy as that. This is a life-changing, life-enhancing opportunity. Barry at barryshore.com. You'll be glad you did. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Free gift. Do it now. Take the action. Make it happen right now. Best wishes. Bye. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking. You're always looking for and finding the good. We have good in abundance. Our cup runneth over with good. Neil Myers, an amazing, wonderful story of being changed in a moment by a head-on collision on a bicycle versus a truck. He was not in the truck. And he's talking to us about what it means now to have been through the experience of hospital. And now, how does one care for oneself? How does one repair? What happens after the trauma? I'd like to begin actually not talking about fitness. I'd like to talk about your filmmaking. I mean, before you weren't a filmmaker, were you? That was not your profession.
Depends how you put it. I was not a filmmaker in the sense that I wasn't doing documentaries or movies, but I've been telling stories for my clients. I own a marketing firm, so I've been telling stories for my clients on video for maybe 35 years. So technically, this was something I'd been doing almost, half my life, let's say. And so I knew how to do it, but I'd never actually told a story this long and this emotional.
So let's take a look at this filmmaking experience. When did you decide that this needs to be done and how long it's going to be? It's going to be a 3 minute, it's going to be a 15 minutes, it's going to be longer than that. And what's the point of the documentary? Was this a catharsis for you emotionally?
So my plan has always been when I retire to be a documentary filmmaker. So I always knew, it's always looking, but when you have an accident like this and you tell the story, people say, you've got to write a book, you got to make a movie. And I had absolutely no interest in that, none whatsoever, because you're asking me to make a movie about myself. That just seems a little cringeworthy. So I really resisted. And then accident was in August. Into the year, I got a call from the hospital. They said, Neil, we have 76,000 people that come through the roof every year. And most of them walk out of here and they said, we have a very generous donor base. And once a year we have it's called the Tiara Ball, and it's a place for them to come and donate money for the trauma unit. And big piece of which is so that people that have no insurance and no money can still get the treatment that you had. Would you mind if we told your story this year? And I said, that'd be great. And so they had a young guy there that was going to make the video, and I kind of kibitzed with them. I said, you're going to do this, you're going to need a drone because it's beautiful mountains and all that. So they made it, and they invited me to this ball. So I came, and I remember when he first started, I said, how long are you thinking for this? He goes, 2 minutes. I remember thinking, good luck with that. I don't think you can tell this story in 2 minutes. So when I saw him there, I said, so how long? I hadn't seen it yet. I said, how long was it? He goes, it's 8 minutes. He says, I had fought tooth and nail to tell this in 15 or 20 minutes. And I said, I couldn't. They don't have that much time. So I was barely able to get them to let me do it in 8 minutes. So fast forward, I'm sitting there, and they had a nice table where I had all the people. I choke up again. They had 8 of the people or 12 of the people that had worked on me that were at the table with my wife and I. And so it was a really nice thing. And then the movie came on, and the room just exploded. It was amazing. And what I realized was this was a chance for all these people that had donated millions and tens of millions to see what their money had done. And it really touched them. And that evening when I left, it took about an hour to get out of the room because all the people had stopped and wanted to talk. And one thing, probably the most common comment, was from the wives saying, my husband's bike goes on Craigslist in the morning. But it was that, to answer your question, that's when I realized this doesn't have to be a story about me. This can be a story about the community, like I said earlier. And really, ultimately, it became a love story. It was a love story of the community, both directions. It was a love story of my love for cycling and this particular mountain, and my family, and specifically my wife. And so I fought tooth and nail not to make it. It would be easy to make it a superhero film, but it really isn't. That's not what it was about.
Let's speak about your wife, please.
Yeah.
First of all, what is her name?
Lee, Leigh.
Leigh. How long were you married prior to this?
Well, we're going to be married 40 years this year. And so that would have been at that time 35.
So it's quite amazing. My book that I fought tooth and nail not to write, but was urged to do, called The Joy of Living. You deserve it. And the dedication is to my wife, Naomi, when I wrote, without whom I would just be protoplasm. Because if it was her that really channeled the healing. So I can not just relate, what a terrible word, I feel the energy, Neil. I feel it. Because it is the wife, in this case. We're married now 45 years, so, but anything over 20 these days is amazing. But yeah, so we're of that world. And I think people understand intellectually, but they don't until it happens really in the gut, that family is the key element in healing. Yeah. I'm saying that. You don't have to agree. But I'm saying family is the key element in healing, and not just as a rah-rah, yeah, you're going to make it, let's go. It's the day-to-day simple process of a touch of the hand, of a smile, let's sit down to dinner together and discuss and really feel that this is something that we're all going through. It's not, hey, look at me, like you said, is we're all going through it. I had asked you, and I'm so glad that you did, I asked you about your 3 favorite books. And I must say we have an intersection on at least 2 of them. But the one that's really struck is The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Now, most people have heard of, no, actually, I take it back. There are some people who have heard of Joseph Campbell. And if you haven't heard of Joseph Campbell, do a search. Because and do the search, Hero Joseph Campbell. Because you'll recognize that as he writes, everybody is on a hero's journey. Everybody. That's the genius of what we're talking about. You mentioned that the world today is sort of not sort of is pushing towards the HATE word, and we're pushing towards the LOVE word.
Yeah.
We know we're going to win. There's no question about it. By the same token, it's a struggle. It's a battle, much like your battle. Just tell us what happened after you made your film. Was it well received?
Yeah. So you have no idea when you make a film, if you've never made one before, how this works. And once you've done it, first of all, you think it's going to take a couple months. It took a couple years. It's really hard. And then once you're finally done, you need to screen it. And so there's a computer system on the web called Film Freeway. It's really cool. It's like a dating service for filmmakers. And so you put it up there, and the second you put it up there, I start getting notifications of all the film festivals that are about to close. And there's like 10,000 film festivals. And so, oh my gosh. And so I immediately signed up for everything. That, later you get some perspective, and you just have to find the right ones. Very first one I signed up for, a week later, I won. It's the Sweden Film Festival. And I just got under the wire. And so I thought, this is easy. This is going to be so easy. And then I got rejected 19 times after that. And then, of course, this is horrible. This is never going to work. And then Santa Barbara Film Festival and one other film festival accepted it. And it eventually kind of found its own kind of flow. And I ended up being accepted as official selection at 36 film festivals around the world. And we won 26 different awards. So I think it went pretty well.
I like that, the low key. I think it worked pretty well. And by the way, that's in 6 different countries, 26 different awards. And the genius of it is never trying to win an award. It was submitting the film to be viewed.
I wanted people to see it. That's really what my goal was, and that was kind of the cruel thing, was it was right in the pandemic and they didn't have screenings. And I finally, my wife, we were on a walk, and we walk every day, and she said, Neil, I know you're upset about it's never in a real audience. Just go do your own screening. So I went to a place I grew up in, Santa Rosa, rented a theater, and had 150 people there. And it was magical. It was so fun to actually see people see the film firsthand.
First of all, I love your wife. That's so uplifting. That's so smart. In other words, you never thought of that. And she says, hello, Neil, why don't we do this? And by the way, anybody that doesn't know about Santa Rosa, you can also do a little Google. One of the things I liked about Santa Rosa is it has a train stop. There's actually a train station in Santa Rosa. I mean, talk about going back in time, and it's just so fun. We only have a few minutes left, Neil, before we have to wrap this up. Would you give us 2 minutes on fitness? In other words, getting back on the horse, as it were, getting back on the bicycle, running, swimming. Running and swimming, I can hear. But on the bicycle, again, was there trepidation?
Yeah, so I'll keep this to 2 minutes, but I have to say one thing, because the first part of your question is very interesting. And there's an athlete's way, and athletes know something that non-athletes don't, which is it's very simple. Just do something that is a little harder than you think you can do. Recover from that. You adapt to it, which means you get stronger. Do it again. Rinse, repeat. And you keep doing that, and there's nothing in the world you can't do. So laying in bed, couldn't move. I'd had my operation that evening. I signed up for the Santa Barbara try, which was a year later.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I just have to hear this again. Say it again.
Yeah.
You're in bed.
So I'm in bed. I had gone to sleep. I woke up and I said, okay, my leg's better. I'm going to sign up for the Santa Barbara try. Can't walk yet, but I'll get there. That's a detail. And then I woke up a little bit later that night and said, oh, and I need a bike because mine's in 3 pieces. So I ordered a new bike. And it's just, that's the athlete's way, is if you just do what I just said, and, 1 foot in front of the other and keep going, there's no limit to where you can go. Your body's going to heal itself, because that's a miracle. So in any case, it was bit by bit. You asked, was there trepidation? Tremendous trepidation. When I picked up my new bike, remember this is pandemic, so it took a long time It almost took longer than me to heal before it got there, but I got there. And of course, you have a new bike at the store, so let's go try it. Well, I couldn't get myself to go on the street, so I went on a sidewalk and brought it home. I've been riding on a trainer, a stationary bike for all that time to get strong. So I was playing strong, but I still worried. So my wife said, she goes, let's go out to the desert. They have those massive gated communities where there's no cars at all. And so spent 2 weeks out there riding every day. And then I came home, and the very first ride I did in the street, I went right back up the hill to where my accident had been. I'd never been there since the accident on purpose, because I didn't want to go there unless I could do it on my terms on my bike. And it was just absolutely magical day. It was 3 days before Christmas.
So you just gave us a new acronym. Like to hear it?
Yes, please.
The acronym is AWE, AWE, and it stands for Athlete's Way Every Day.
Yeah, so important.
That's all. It's, as Neil has just shared with us, it's a little bit push, a little bit push, keep going, keep growing. That is the athlete's way every day. Oh, time goes by too fast, Neil. We have 3 quick questions for you before we have to close our hour. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
First question, will you come back again?
Please.
Okay. Second question. You have only 80 seconds to answer this. What is your most fervent desire? 80 seconds.
Yeah, so I would say it's off of what you were saying before about make a difference. You get to this stage in life, and hopefully you've been lucky, you've been successful. It's an opportunity to be able to try and help others on their journey. So that would be my most fervent hope.
Thank you. HOPE is a great acronym, helping others progress every day, which you've done. So I'm going to give you now a hug in front of 363,819 people around the world. Are you ready?
Yes.
On the count, let me tell you what HUG stands for. Heartfelt, unlimited giving. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Barry. This has been so fun.
Don't go away. You've been listening to The Joy of Living with our humble host, Barry Shore, and our amazing guest, Neil Myers. Remember, everything is built on the 3 fundamentals. Your life has purpose. You lead a purpose-driven life. You go mad. You make a difference. And number 3 is to unlock the power and the sequence of everyday words and terms. So you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. Like smile, seeing miracles in life every day. Create, causing rethinking, like Neil did. Causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. Athlete's way every day. And say thank you 3 times a day, the 2 most powerful words in the English language. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To harmonize and nurture kindness. Remember the 6 most important words you can ever internalize, utilize, and leverage your life. How you choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Choice, not chance, determines your. You heard Neil. He chose on his bed. He says, I'm signing up for the triathlon. Thank you. Order the bike. Go out and do it. That's the key to life. So from Neil and Barry, we give you a blessing. Go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Thank you, wonderful Neil. Best wishes.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joy of Living podcast. Now that's another step towards your healthier, happier, and wealthier life. Never hesitate to do good in the world, no matter what the situation. Join us for another upbeat discussion next time at barryshore.com. And be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show to get more conversations like this. And remember to share it with your family and friends too. See you on the next episode.